Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is week 27. Now, last week we worked on this front bit of the central tower. A lot of fun. We got a little bit distracted. We didn't do the Divination classroom as I had initially planned. Instead, we put an insert here, which became the Charms classroom. And it was completely removable, and here it is. So that was the focus of last week's video, even though we started the video by explaining how we were going to detail the Divination classroom. Now, a week later, we're finally going to get that started. So, where we are right now is just right at the roofline of the Charms classroom. And we have the rest of the building also over here that is kind of demolished. Now, originally, the way that this building worked was I had this bit over here, and this sort of was just a few levels, a few rows of bricks to raise the height of the tower. And then on top of that, I had this completely closed off room, which acted as my room of requirement, even though it was inaccessible. And then on top of that, I had the top of the tower. Now, of course, in the past few weeks, apart from actually making interiors, one of the main things I'm focusing on is making sure that I can actually get into deeper parts of the building. So, whereas before, the only way that you could see into this part of the building was from this direction, and of course that required removing the viaduct entrance, which was alright. I had no way to look down from this area here. But now that we've basically completely demolished this front section, I would like to be able to look down into the space from this angle right here. And given that the top of the Charms classroom is at this level, and there will be another level for the Divination classroom, I thought it was probably ideal to have a floor level of whatever was right here in the middle start right here as well. So this is basically what the angle or the view that you would have looking down into this main space. Now, obviously I said this is how it looks like currently, so in place of this, you can almost think about it as, I'm taking that bit off, I'm putting this bit on first, and then this bit. So what it means is that this room of requirement space will be slightly taller, and I'll have to modify the interior to match that, of course, but then I can take this off in one chunk, and look down into the space, and it would be the same. Nice. It would be the same level plane as the floor of the Divination classroom. Therefore, we can actually have a door entering this space, because as of right now, the Charms classroom is actually the only, it might just be the only room in this entire mock that doesn't actually have a door that leads to it, apart from the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Actually, sorry, that makes no sense. If this is the room of requirement and this is a divination, it wouldn't really make sense that the door to divination would be through the room of requirement. So scratch what I just said. Basically, Defense Against the Dark Arts, room of requirement, divination are all basically going to be on the same floor level, which is quite ideal actually, and none of them will have doors. Alright, so here we are a little while later. Let me quickly walk you through what I've done here. So split up into 3 sections actually, and we'll work away from the front. So even though I put this brick here, it's quite hard to get off. One side is attached to the sloping roof, and the other 3 are just tacked down there with some plates. So now the Charms classroom is still completely removable. I keep dropping things today. Completely removable, as you can see. It's a little bit of a kind of a weird way that it hooks in here on the side, but it's actually sliding in a lot easier than it was last week. Pick that up again. So this bit is sitting in behind the window, and that's only because I decided that it would probably be a little bit too difficult to figure out how to work my way within this. So how this will work is this will slide up, and the 2 side walls will come with it as well as the roof, but the sort of front detailing of this building will remain completely sort of its own entity. That way I'm not pulling off the front and messing with all of this, well, all of this detail work over here. So we're going to have to, for example, bits like this, we're going to have to separate it here so that this column here at the front is one bit, and the bit with the windows is connected to the floor level over here. This middle section, haven't altered the room requirement yet, but it just comes out as a regular 16 by 16 plate here in the middle. And then as a sort of a last piece, because I decided why not, I also decided to make this bit removable over here, and I put a 8 by 16 plate here to make this its own little bit at the end, because I was doing this middle bit and I realized this was just sort of sitting here at the end looking all lonely, and I thought, well, that could definitely be a space. So This is for you guys. Go down in the comments below and, well, you know where it's at, right at the back of the central tower. It's an 8x16 space, a little bit smaller, obviously based on the wall thicknesses. Let me know what I should put in here. You guys have seen what all the other interiors of Hogwarts are, so there's not really many big ones left, but I'd love to hear your suggestions, and I'll see what I'll go with, maybe in the upcoming videos, depending on what the comments all say. And here's just a last look at what this sort of tile work underneath all of this looks like. Now, it's pretty standard, just pretty much all tiles except for a few bits here and there where I need to hook down the modules. Obviously, it's in 3 main pieces, so we have the bit at the end, which hooks down. We have the central bit, which will continue the rest of the tower. And then we have a 1 brick height change to this front space, only because of the pitch of the roof line over here. And this bit hooks down here at the front. Now, we're not going to focus on these bits for now because we've got something more important. I can't be delaying the Divination classroom again, so this is going to be the focus for the video. And like I said, we'll see where we get with the rest of those in upcoming weeks. Let's get started with this. So unfortunately, before we go any further, we've actually got to rewind a bit. I've decided that I've made a slight mistake when designing the Charms classroom. Now, what you can see here is the roof side of the Charms classroom, and on this left side here, you can see that let's get the light properly. You can see that the roof line sticks out 1 brick on either side and 2 bricks on the other side. Now the reason for that was, of course, so that it could rest on the edges, and that's basically what's helping to hold the weight. Now it's not necessary, but the problem is what it causes right here. Now this bit is a 2x3 column. However, this bit is 3x3, and I forgot about that. So just for a visualization, this is what that looks like. And you can see if I were to go and try to lift up this, you'd basically be knocking down the column every time you do it, or you'd have to remove this first before you can pick that up, solely because of where this lands. So what I'm thinking of doing actually is reducing the width of this by 1 brick. So this first row of slopes is going to be connected into the wall, whereas the rest of it will be connected into the Charms classroom, and this side will be left alone. What that will mean is I can take this straight out and not have to worry about it touching anything on this front facade, as we were talking earlier. It's a bit annoying that I have to do this, but it's going to help me in the future with just making this smarter. Alright, perfect. It's fixed, and it was actually slightly easier than I thought it would be. There you go. This is now flush with the inside of the Charms classroom, and you can see the bit that I've built on the side right here. And in fact, the good thing I just realized is it actually doesn't even need the second row of slopes that this one has, because it goes right into the column. So now, if I can find it, there it is. That kind of sits like this. And you can see how it looks like when I pull it out. It just makes things a lot easier. So now we can actually get to the Divination classroom. Well, good news is everything is coming back together pretty fast. We've already got the walls built up and the roof back on top of it. So I tiled off the top of the walls so that I could remove the roof. And then obviously this entire section also removes to reveal the Charms classroom underneath it. One thing I did do extra, as you can see in the corners, there are some sort of 1x1 columns, if you will. There's just to strengthen the wall, because otherwise it would just be 1 row all the way down and it would be extremely flimsy. So by just putting these bits sticking out on the corner, it strengthens the entire wall structure, just given that there's no side walls, because it's using that back wall and this front bit of the detailing. So now that we can put the roof back on, if I can even manage to do that, you guys can see the sort of space that we're dealing with. Now it is 4 bricks of wall space, yes, but we can inch into the roof a little bit, I think, and figure out how that's going to look. Now obviously I said last week that one of the big things is it's how you see the room like this, not with the roof on, that matters. So it is still a very short space to deal with, but I like that I'm at least able to see what it's going to look like at the moment. So we're going to start off by just finishing off this front wall so that I know what I'm dealing with. We're going to take this bit off and then sort of design the Divination classroom independently and then throw it back into the mock. Okay, so this thing has quickly been put back together. You guys can also see that I've tiled off the top of these two columns, which has been something that's been nagging me forever because I never did them. Now, the main thing is, some of you might notice, that the roof is actually taller than the sort of pitch line on the front here. And that's only because the sort of cumulative stacking of all the plates and tiles throughout this whole section here has basically lifted it up about a little bit more than one brick. So it basically means that to compensate for that, we're going to have to increase the height of this also by one brick. Now I'm just sort of deciding here where I want to do that, because the easiest thing to do is just to be right at the top, just add one row above that detailing, but I think then it would start to look a little bit out of proportion. So I'm going to experiment ever so slightly with maybe lifting where that detailing is, so putting a row right above the arched window. So we're just going to play about here and there and see how that turns out. One thing I will want to say is, do you know how last week we had some concerns about being able to see the level of the divination classroom? Well, it's actually now above the window, for that very same reason. The sort of like a plate here, a plate there adds up, and suddenly you don't even see it, which worked out perfectly. And just a quick look at the reference material here. This is a concept drawing of Hogwarts Legacy. So zooming back into the central tower here, you can see that actually there's not much space above the detailing before the pitch line starts, but there is a decent amount of clearance between the window and the detailing. So we're going to go with that. We're going to put one row above the large arched window, and hopefully that will not look too silly. So we're going to do that, see how it turns out. In case anyone's wondering, this is what this sort of top half or top section of this wing that sticks out looks like. Just all built from the same piece, but obviously that there are these two sort of distinct columns that stick out. One comes out a little bit further than the other. This one comes out 2 bricks and it's a 4x4. This comes out 1 brick and it's a 3x3. That's what it looks like from the top as well. I don't know, I just figured some people do ask occasionally how I actually build things, so here's just a closer look for those who are interested. But anyhow, we've ripped it off at the level that I want to add a row of bricks, so we're going to quickly do that with my very limited amount down here. In fact, we've basically got no bricks left that are too wide, except for that singular 2x2 brick right there. So hopefully this will work out. Now, this might be entirely just because I've been used to seeing it how it was before. It does look a little bit weird. It looks a little bit stretched. You can see that I've added the row right above the window there. To be fair, when I look at that in isolation, it's fine. Just the overall building looks a lot taller than I initially anticipated. Another thing that I just figured out as well is, obviously I said the stacking of the various plates and tiles to make the rooms modular means that this bit is slightly taller. Well, it also means that I would have to make this bit in the center slightly taller as well, because the way that this whole thing works is I'm basically just giving enough clearance so that when I put the roof on, and bear with me for a second while I do this, when I put the roof on like this, well, you can see now where the pitch line goes, and it's pretty much 3/4 of the way up of this floor here, whereas it's supposed to be marking the beginning of this floor. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 bricks. So it used to be 4. It used to be 4 bricks that I had of this that was propped underneath the room of requirement under here. But now I'm going to have to raise this by 6, which I was just saying initially that I was going to just add the 4 bricks back onto the room of requirement. It was going to be a slightly tall room, but should I even pretend to think about adding another floor? I mean, 4 bricks is not a floor, but 6 is starting to be something manageable. I mean, this floor is 6 bricks tall, so I'm gonna do another floor. So the room of requirement has been tiled off. I had to use some dark tan on the inside because, while I do have a decent amount of both colors, well, that's quite bright. While I do have a decent amount of both colors, I would like to conserve the regular tan tiles for the rest of the mock wherever I do anything sort of modular. So that's why I've used dark tan there, and I think it looks alright. It's honestly nothing anyone worries about. The interior of this space will probably need a little bit of vamping up, let's put it like that. It's mostly done. I mean, it's just using the original room requirement set from probably about 2019 or so, but it would help if I add a few more details, but that will be a mission for another day. We now have another 16 by 16 plate, and the mission of building this room up by about 6 bricks, and if I decide to go more, if I decide to make it 7 so it can be a proper height room, I don't think it's going to drastically affect, you know, the height of this building. So if it's sort of sitting at this level versus that level, doesn't really make a big difference. It's just more how the building looks in proportion to everything else. 1 brick or so here is not gonna make or break this thing. So let's quickly build up this other floor over here, just the walls, and this is going to be a space that will mostly have to be just completely walled off. Unfortunately, there's really not going to be any room for windows because all the roof lines go right into it. But we'll do that very quickly, and then we'll actually move on to the Divination classroom because I feel like I'm doing everything in my power to not get it done. So let's get on to that. Okay, I've just put all the buildings back in place so that you guys can get a better idea of how the building looks now that it's changed ever so slightly. It is increased in height, the main building, and I suppose this building, by 2 bricks. It is not really noticeable except for the fact that now, for example, on this side we have quite a large jump from the top of this pitch line to the beginning of this floor, and even with this front bit here we've got a little bit of a difference here. Now I made this room filler here in the middle 5 bricks high, but I again forgot about the fact that when you add a plate and then the tile for that plate to go on and then the tiles on top of that, but you're basically adding for every new floor whatever the floor height is plus 1 extra brick, because there's 2 layers of tiles and 1 layer of plate. So I technically raised that 6, and I think 6 is a little bit too tall, but if I make the room 4 bricks then it's completely unusable. I mean, this is what it looks like at 5 bricks tall, and I'm gonna put in a minifigure. This is a centaur. There we go. You can see where their head is, so they're basically just slightly higher than the room. We're gonna put another regular minifigure, for example. So I think she fits, Fleur. Yeah, she definitely fits. So a regular minifigure would fit in this space, so it's definitely doable, but 4 bricks, absolutely not. What does that mean? I think I will leave it down in the comments for everyone to let me know. Obviously that's been put on wrong. Should I leave this sort of filler as 5 bricks so that I can have a full room? And do you think that doesn't look too bad at the moment? Or do you think I really should just scale it down, forget about the extra room because I don't need it, and just move forward with my life? Oh, and the roof of this, if I can get it out, now has just a little bit extra structure here at the end because I kept finding every time I pulled it out that I would just fold it in half essentially. So just that bit of bricks here on the end is all that I need to make this nice and secure. Can we please get on to the Divination classroom? Okay, so the first steps I took here was to try to use these drapes. Now this is from the, I want to say 2001 Gryffindor common room mock. Or it might be part of, you know, one of the larger castles, but from that era, and I've been trying really hard to use it somewhere in the mock. Now I originally was going to use it in the Gryffindor common room, but I couldn't find a place for it, and then I was like, oh, Divination classroom, there's curtains on all the walls. This would be perfect. But then of course we're stuck with walls that are only 4 bricks high, which is just amazing. So I did try to use it, but it looks terrible. So unfortunately this will have to go back into the parts drawer, and I'll have to find a way to use it somewhere else. But in any case, the idea with this is obviously we don't have much height to deal with, so I may or may not do a platform at all. By that I mean, you can see here how there are, you know, these wooden platforms on either side. Now I would like to do that, but obviously that would just completely crush the space, and you can see what a short minifigure looks like in the space right now. If I put something on the sides, there's no way we're going to be able to close the roof, so I'm gonna have to do some more thinking, and we're gonna have to give the idea that there are you know, wooden furniture and everything in this space without actually eating into the height. Alright, so what's going down here is that I've been experimenting a little bit with using wedges instead of bricks or anything else to create the platform. This is really just going to kind of give an indication that there is a raised level in this space, and it's also just to sort of frame the room. Now, it's not necessarily a circle, it's more ovular, but the idea is that it's curved in some sense, and that we'll probably have, you know, some sort of a table right in the middle, Trelawney, and there's more space on that back side than there is on this front side, and this was intentional in order to just have a few tables and such, and have some actually minifigures sitting against the back, so that this scene can come to life a little bit. And I'm thinking along the sides or something we'll probably put some small bookshelves or just sort of decoration in some sort. Against this back wall, I decided to fill up the space with essentially an entranceway, even though it doesn't lead to anything, so it would just be against the back wall. And it's just using an assortment of sort of arches and inverted bricks in order to create somewhat detailing, and it's only because without it would just be a boring tan wall. Now obviously this is to be viewed as I take it out like this, so it also just helps to shape the room a little bit better. Now what I'm going to do is tile off the floor first, and then we're going to have to put a row of plates underneath all of these wedges so that they can sit on top of the tiles, and they can look raised up slightly, and then we'll go from there. Also, some of you might realize that Crouch, this might be Cornelius Fudge, anyhow, that the minifigures don't actually fit through the doorway, and I bent him down intentionally, but that's only because this space is so small. But I think if I put a small minifigure in there, you're never going to notice. For those interested, the way that I'm going about doing this is I'm laying a row of plates around the exterior here and then filling in this middle section with tiles, and I'm basically just having enough plates in order to actually hook on the wedges, and they overhang over the tiles, and that way I don't have to worry about getting a tile that matches the exact slope of the wedge, so they're just sitting on top, giving a little bit of a lip, and then I will tile on top of these, and that is how we are going to sort of achieve that sort of platform effect all the way around the room. So a few minutes later, this is what the Divination classroom is now looking like. The floor is completely tiled off, and we've got the wedges going around the outside to form an oval of sorts, and I think it does get the message across quite clearly. Now, how are we going to fill this space? Well, towards the back I'm going to try to prioritize putting tables and cushions and places for students to sit, and then around the front and the sides we're going to sort of cram it full with all sorts of accessories and things that Trelawney might have in her Divination classroom. I'm going to see if I have any sort of burgundy pieces that I can maybe plaster to the wall to act as some sort of curtains, but if not, we will fill it up some other way. So we're going to take a small break now. We're going to pillage through all of the sort of pre-built pieces that I have, and we're going to find anything that can be used in a Divination classroom. We've got quite a lot of stuff here, and this is basically what I do every week, is I tear through this and I go, oh, that's a useful piece. This is an axe, so it's not actually that useful for what we're doing right now, but that's the idea, and then I build it. Alright, so in our pile of goodies here we have a mixture of different things, and we've got quite a lot of equivalent crystal balls. We got one here. I had to build some of these, but they were just using kind of like standard heads pieces. So we got a mixture of weird things in jars, a clock in case I want to put one on the wall. We've got quite a lot of cups, saucers, and tea related things, some weird gemstones, candles, etc. And well, I don't really know how to start except for just putting things in here, and if it looks good, it looks good, and if it doesn't, then I'll try something else. And so with the sun finally beating down on us, I have what I would like to call a complete Divination classroom. Essentially what I did was take that basic form that you saw a little while ago and pack it full of anything and everything to give this room some life. I'm gonna pick it up here. So, oh, there goes Trelawney, sorry. Well, Trelawney, oh, that's a lot better. Okay, so around the back wall we have just an assortment of little small tables and things lying on top of them. We have Lavender there at the back. She is most definitely bigger than that doorway, but that is okay. We have a few decorations on the wall. That's just a random sticker from some sort of a castle set, I believe. We have a singular table and chair in the back. Coming around the side, we just have little shelves with some more crystal balls, gems, and all the little trinkets that I showed you, and Trelawney's desk here in the middle with her chair. And same thing around on the other side, we just have a bucket with the umbrella and a clock there on the wall. So all in all, you might be able to say that this is quite a simple design, and frankly it is. You know, we're getting to the point in the mock Hogwarts in general, where we're getting quite low on pieces, but definitely want to make sure that all the interiors are up to scratch. So I decided against tiling off this space, just because it gives me a little bit more room to put minifigures, attach them down, and I don't think with all the commotion going on in here that I need to tile it off, because you're not really paying attention to it very much. So we're going to slide this back into the Hogwarts, and we're going to see how it looks. So here's what the space looks like without the Divination classroom in place. It actually looks quite nice, fully tiled over, and you guys can just see that the wall is existing on its own, and we've got the back wall of the main tower acting as the sort of backdrop for this. And then of course the Divination classroom as an insert basically just slides right in there pretty comfortably. Oh, I forgot there's that column in the way, so you actually have to slide it in from the back as such. I'm making this look a lot harder than I think it is. I found the problem. You can actually see that that gem is sticking out ever so slightly past the wall, so we're gonna have to get rid of that, unfortunately, and probably that head there in the middle. Okay, so just to make our lives easier, I've removed the top of this, and it's only connected by a 1x1 brick plate. Sorry, that's only because this is kind of all off-centered from each other to get some sort of half brick detailing going on. But now I can take the Divination classroom. Second time lucky. There we go. That just hooks in there, and I can put that column piece back on the other way. And we have the Divination classroom. And so with Trelawney back in the space, we now have a completed Divination classroom. It's probably going to be the smallest interior that we have in the mock. Now there might be some small ones there, but at least they have height to them, so it'll be an appropriate sized office or something, for example. This is a space that really should be a lot taller for what we're giving it, but given the squeeze and well, just the general shaping and accessibility to this area, I think we've done a pretty good job. Divination classroom is something I just wanted in the mock, but it doesn't necessarily need to be in an important and very accessible part of the castle. So it's looking pretty good. You don't see any of it from the front, and I'm gonna pick up the roof here, and if I were to slide that on and take a step back, it's pretty much impossible to notice that we put any interiors in here at all. So you can see obviously the little bit of the tile there on the side, in that bit as well, and down there as well, but in terms of interrupting anything with the original building, everything is looking really good. And the way that I would get to everything is say, let's see the interiors. So I would take off this main part of the roof to reveal the Divination classroom. You go, oh wow, that's pretty cool. What's underneath here? And you go, what? There's something underneath here? Well, of course there is. You take off the Divination classroom, put it to the side somewhere. Then you go, wow, there's a Charms classroom. You still can't quite see it. Oh, knocked something off there. Charms classroom comes off in that piece. Stack it delicately. Then down at the very bottom, we have the Transfiguration classroom. Now this is probably the worst angle you could ever have looking down into this space, but it does sort of give a plan view, if anything else. Maybe it's probably easier from this side where we don't have such a high wall. And that'll obviously need a little bit of touching up with some minifigures and some detailing. But we've now taken this space and given it 3 interiors, and we've created one new one in the middle and one new one at the back that will be something for a future update. Well everyone, that is the end of week 27. I hope you all enjoyed. I thought I'd give you a little bit of an insight these past 2 weeks into how I sort of completed the building, if you will, and gut it out and create some interiors and also rework it so that we can get to those interiors. As for week 28, we will be shifting our attention a little bit away from some interiors, working over there. But I'm going to leave you at that. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and perhaps sub to this channel, and I will see you all in week 28. Bye guys.